Alright, so as I am going for Wraith Substitute, I am going to be making an analysis video on Otz's best of the best match versus Shattered Dreams in which he picked Wraith. This is my area of relative expertise, so I'm keen to get into it. First things first, I don't know the rules of this tournament. I was not here for it. So I'm just going to be analysing this like it's a normal game. Because, you know, the point of this is to equip Wraith players to do well in their own public matches. This is like, and I don't think DBD is a very good tournament game anyway, so there's that. There's also, this was September 2020. This was before Wraith's lunge buff from 1 second to 1.25 seconds. So without double swift hunt, you are not able to pull off a lunge if you uncloak directly behind a survivor. You need to get ahead and body block, which is why Windstorm was so good back then. This is also obviously before his base Windstorm buff, in which he moves it up 150%, so one of your add-on slots is always going to be occupied by Windstorm. So I will need to keep that in mind while critiquing his lunges. Also, this is shot with the dog shit spectator mode, so I won't actually be able to see when he starts his lunge because the camera's too far forward. Other than that, let's get on to it.
And so I suspect they're going to struggle with stealthing in the beginning game because
I won't
that's
talk
kind of the point of
until I have
all-seeing
something to
eye, is
say.
that Otzdarva can just literally roam around the map in stealth, and he will get the aura reading onto the survivors. And look, he's already found Huzza, and it's
we got
basically a repeat.
repeat.
So he cloaks again immediately after catching
build.
someone,
He's
which is good.
Life dance with me, so when he vaults stuff, he'll get that.
That was a good body block right
and
there.
it looks like
We'll go back. This is something that people don't realise about body blocking, and it's especially important on killers like Wraith and Billy, which get very, very good results out of body blocking people. Wraith because he's so fast, Billy because he gets them insta down.
interesting build. He's
And
running life
that
dance
extends to
with me,
Bubba as
when
well.
he
So he only has to get to
vaults
here.
stuff,
I'll go frame by frame. Sorry. Very unprofessional.
and Huzzah actually has an interesting build.
So,
he's running life dance
if you
with
look
me,
at actually
when
where he gets to, he's just here, right in front of the door. And he gets to about here when she tries to actually enter the room, and he blocks her. So this is why body blocking is such a good tactic on Wraith, because you actually don't need to fully get into the door and like put yourself in the choke point. You just need to overlap your hitbox enough so that their hitbox can't fit around it into the door. So he's only covering about half of it at the moment. You can still, if this smoke wasn't here, you'd be able to see like the corner of the door here. And she gets stuck. You see? She can't go through the pallet. And then he follows up with a good lunge.
Alright, well, we're
Free down. That's another thing to talk about with
running
body
life
blocking.
dance with me, so when he vaults stuff, he'll
So if you start uncloaking here while they're still running into you, remember it takes them time to turn around and actually start moving off in this direction. So even though Wraith currently only has a 1 second lunge in this patch, he's still able to pull off the lunge.
And it looks like he got
Because you see, hold on, I'll take it back a little bit.
running life dance with me, so when he vaults stuff, he'll
So he's uncloaking here.
movement speed.
By the time she starts running in the other direction, he's already like up to here on the uncloak bar. He's already about a third done. And it takes Wraith, I believe, 3 seconds at base to uncloak. So he's just shaved off an entire second of that. And that's automatically better than running 2 swift hunts at the same time, because I believe 2 swift hunts knocks it down to 2.3 something seconds. So body blocking, if you start uncloaking immediately, is an extremely good tactic to get lunges in which you wouldn't usually get lunges.
And it looks like he got the body block.
So he pulls it off here.
Look at the
And this is even better with Wraith's current lunge because it's 1.25 seconds as opposed to 1 second. Also, Wraith is much faster at base, so it's much easier to body block. And I suppose that's kind of the two things you need to keep in mind with Wraith when chasing, is cutting ahead and body blocking, and lunging from behind. It's basically picking which direction you want to attack from, because you can touch them from behind as you start uncloaking, and then you can lunge and you will pretty much always get the hit unless they duck around several corners. Or you can cut ahead and come at them from the front. And then expanding on that, obviously, you know, your Wraith, you want to come from unexpected angles. That's why that's like the entire purpose of your cloak, is to hit them from an angle they don't expect. And the lunge is basically just an extension of that. Body blocking is just an extension of that. Because if they expect a body block, they'll just double back around. And if they expect the lunge, well, they might have dead hard. Like, lunge is harder to counter, but if they expect the lunge, they might start weaving in between debris. I don't believe this Meg really had anything. She had, like, the other side of this loop. She had these boxes, so there was nowhere she could really go. So, yeah.
Catch! Oh my god. Alright, well,
She could have possibly gone up the stairs, but...
right back into
It's,
it. He knows
questionable.
full well Azad does not have D-Strike, so assuming he plays this right, I mean, we might be literally in the same exact situation again.
So, Otz does not have barbecue,
Literally
but he does
nothing.
have all-seeing.
Yeah, that start basically gets rid of all.
Also, sorry, I forgot to analyze his build. Haunted Grounds, Ruin, Play With Your Food, Corrupt, very standard Wraith build. His add-ons are... That's Purple Windstorm and then All-Seeing Blood. So, he sees survivors within, I believe it's 12 meters, while cloaked, which you can see here. And Windstorm is basically just he go fast, which is base kit with the current patch. However, Old Windstorm theoretically decreased like your movement speed while uncloaking. Not like your uncloaked speed itself, it was still 3 seconds, but it made you go slower while uncloaking. So that meant you lost a lot more distance while uncloaking, which made lunging a lot harder. At some point, however, and I don't know when, these add-ons got bugged and they actually stopped applying that penalty, so it was just a flat speed increase with no downside. I don't know if that's true in this patch, but given the lunge he did on that Meg earlier, I don't think it's currently giving him a penalty. Which is, you know, kind of irrelevant, but it is what it is. Play With Your Food is a very nice niche perk on Wraith because his cloak immediately ends the chase, if you weren't aware of that. And because of Wraith's nature as an M1 killer, he gets a lot of mileage out of that extra 5%, 10%, 15% on situations where he can't really reliably cloak. For example, at Shack, it's really, really hard to pull a lunge off there because they have... there's not enough distance between them and the window. Sorry, there's too much distance for you to clip them before they get the window on either side. And if you try and body block them, well, there's a window and there's a pallet. So once you get the pallet out of the way, you can kind of try and body block the window, but it depends on which direction they're coming from. But yes, so Play With Your Food helps in situations like that where you can't deal with stuff using your cloak. So, good perk on Wraith. Not as needed now that his lunge is better, but it's still good. And obviously this is when his lunge wasn't good, so it's even better. Haunted Grounds works very well with Wraith, especially in combination with Ruin, because they'll want to get Ruin off. Wraith makes very good use out of Ruin by forcing people off gens. And he also synergizes extremely well with Exposed, because if there's one thing Wraith excels at, it's getting easy first hits, because he has no cloak, he can sneak up on people. If you look at it from a survivor perspective, you don't actually fully start, like, visibly uncloaking until about a third of the way through. So, that in combination with his lunge means that unless they have sprint burst, you will pretty much always get the first hit on a survivor who's working on a generator or hiding in a corner or something like that. If you have an exposed perk, that becomes a down, just for free. So exposed perks are very nice on Wraith, and then Corrupt Intervention is Corrupt Intervention. Wraith makes very good use out of it because of his mobility, and also Otz combine that with All-Seeing Eye. So even if they try and stealth around the corrupted gens for 2 minutes and try and negate it, because it is a tournament, everyone's going to be sweating, he can see them with this. And Wraith has inherent very nice tracking because he's hard to pinpoint your location from. He is hard to pinpoint the location of. He's good stealth. So yes.
Worries, and already that's going to be
Good lunge.
Jane spotted here. Dom. All-Seeing Eye is so powerful.
And you'll see he comes from an angle.
No stealth.
He doesn't just W key behind her. He's coming around from the side. This is something that you need to take into account if you're going against Wraith, and if you're playing as Wraith, you need to be doing this. Because, like, while you are visible in the sense that you have, like, a Predator camouflage, you have the shimmer, it's still not easy to see with your peripheral vision. You need to kind of be focused on the general area in which the Wraith is to actually be able to see it. And given that you're moving quite fast, if they look at the wrong location or they look at where you were just a second ago, they probably won't see you. If they're paying really good attention, then they will, but it's always good. Like, you lose nothing by coming from this angle. Or he could have potentially cut around here, which probably would have wasted too much time, but it's an option, instead of just coming up straight behind her. This is something you always want to do as Wraith.
On a map that is all about stealth play. There is no...
This is an unsafe pallet. Okay, so here's a misplay. So... okay. Here he starts uncloaking.
No stealthing.
Which is good, because he's in a position to body block this pallet, so she can't just double back around and go to it. However...
I totally see the pick now.
At this point, he sees that she has kept running, and he just keeps uncloaking fully. So you see he's only half done, he still has 1.5 seconds to go, and he is moving reasonably slow. So he's finished uncloaking, he's got the lunge, but she gets to it. What he should have done was, instead of continuing to uncloak after he saw that, like, look, she turned her head around, she clearly wasn't aiming to go back to that pallet, he should have cancelled his uncloak, cut ahead, gone around this barrel, and body blocked this pallet. So she would have probably realized a little bit too late and started coming back, but at that point, she would have been, you know, on the other side of this barrel. She would not have had time to get to this pallet without dead hard, and I don't believe this Jane is running dead hard.
No pallets ahead unless they have dead hard to make
so that was a misplay.
Up ahead. Let's see if they can. No, I don't think it's actually out of the range.
And he hits a pallet to the face. This is a good mind game, by the way.
Was lag or he just hesitated.
This is nothing specific to Wraith. This is just
but nice downies.
Good killer mind games. He pretends to break the pallet.
The small pallet's so incredibly difficult to juke on. You know, if you make one simple mistake, you're pretty much going down for that. Looks like he will let the save go on his for free. I'm assuming he's probably going to float here and kind of fly back in that general.
So he's gone off in this direction. I don't know where he goes after this because
there's something going
spectator
on
mode.
Generators to try to push them off of those.
So so based on this, he ended up cutting around that left side of the saloon that's like behind him right here. He cut around the left, went round the porch, I guess you could call it, and just kind of cut around here. I assume he checked upstairs. Not by actually going upstairs, just by looking as he went around the outside, and now he's ended up here. Which is okay, and as Wraith you can afford to make detours like that because you're fast enough to not lose too much time.
Back to the hook
that's the
he checks his totem, and then he checks his gen, sees someone there.
Restart procedures, they don't understand that
this was a reasonable gun uncloak.
Forcing
he gets the lunge here, I believe.
They're tossing it out through gameplay, but
good one.
There's no way for them to know that Otzdarva's add-on is the all-seeing eye, and they're doing so much crouch stealth play to try and hide their positions. There's just not a possibility to actually achieve that in this game. And
I don't know if you noticed that, but he's trying to fake lunging by just quickly tapping his bell animation.
Kind of.
See, he does it there. Like, it's very visible if I go back a few frames. Sorry, very unprofessional. But if you can see here, he brings his hand up. That's the bell animation. This is a very good tactic for unsafe pallets like these, because survivors have to stun you at these, or they will go down, or they will get hit or whatever, but she's injured, so she'll go down. And that's another thing to keep in mind. Survivors who are injured, unless they have dead hard, will play a lot more safe. So at this pallet, she doesn't want to just drop it and then try and hold W, unless she gets the stun, so that's what she's aiming for. Otz has got the right idea, especially on this side, because he's very, very close. If he lunges normally, he might not get her, but it would be close enough to like the point where the survivor would probably just drop it to be safe, because, you know, ping busted as fuck hitboxes, especially in the current patch where pallets are not as broken as they used to be, but still pretty fucked. But the thing is, except for this,
expect as the game goes on,
he doesn't do it for long enough. And this is similar to chainsaw feathering if you've played Billy, where you need to actually, you can't just like tap into, you can't just you can't just tap M2 once without holding it at all. That will literally just make him twitch a little bit, which will probably like not even be picked up by the survivor, or it'll be really, really obvious that you're not actually swinging. You need to literally raise your weapon to hit your bell, and you ideally want to cancel just before it hits the bell.
Hide there.
You don't lose any distance while cloaking. You don't have any speed penalty while cloaking, despite the in-game tip saying you do. You don't. it's only when uncloaking that you have a speed penalty. So, bell mine games like that are very, very useful for unsafe pallets. And that's why. But you'll see...
Not a possibility.
I'll actually slow it down a little bit.
Right.
So, you see. That was an attempt, but it wasn't enough. He didn't commit enough. He just kind of, like, raised his bell, or raised his weapon to about here. So he didn't actually raise his weapon enough. He only raised his left hand, which has the bell in it. You need to wait until your right hand is up and, like, swinging down to hit the bell before you cancel.
But you achieve that.
And he does it again here. But, like you see, he barely taps it. It's only there for a few frames. I'm going forward, whoops. So he does raise his weapon there, but he never brings it down. It just cancels immediately.
Kinda... would expect as
So
the game
then
goes on that you
he
actually
misses
just
the
want
swing,
to go for
and she gets the
some
stun.
aggression. That was a...
And gets the shift W.
Yeah, I'm surprised. That looked like it was a hit, but honestly, a Wraith
This is another
for some
slight
reason
misplay.
has like baby arms. I swear.
So
For
he just
some
waits
reason,
here.
His lunges always feel...
She was waiting, which means that my potential player would have suggested may not have worked to begin with. But what he could have done there, instead of just sitting there and waiting for her...
Just always...
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, but honestly...
So, you'll see she's here, and this is the short side of the loop here. I'm not as familiar with 1 second lunge Wraith around loops. I know with 1.25 second lunge Wraith, you can absolutely make it around this and clip her. You could possibly literally go from here all the way around here and like hit her through the pallet even if she doubles back and drops it this side, because you move very, very fast. Especially if you like do that trick where you cancel your lunge early, like you take your hand off M1 or your finger off M1 early, so the hit actually, like the hurt box swings. And sometimes you can get hits through pallets that otherwise would have been slammed down in your face before the lunge ended. That probably sounds really weird with me describing it, but once you see it happen, you'll understand. I'll try and show you if you're ever in a game with me. So, yeah, there's that. He just kind of sits here and waits.
For some reason has like baby arms, I swear.
So you see, he was already moving this way. I think he may have thought she would have done it. Like, she would have dropped it there and he could have gone around and hit her. But then he just stops.
Always feels, and it's like, I
so he doesn't really lose anything, but...
I would have been fine on that. He does have a play with your food stack, another play with your food stack coming in.
He doesn't get a hit that he could have possibly got. She's got
live.
live.
Incredibly difficult. I'm curious if he's going to try...
Oh, no, actually, you know what? He was probably going for play with your food stacks. That makes a bit more sense. However, another thing I forgot to mention, sorry.
Aggression, that was... expect...
Oops.
Yeah,
so,
that looked like
if a survivor is camping a pallet like this and you don't feel like going for the lunge, don't fully uncloak. You waste time. This is especially true if you have Shadow Dance and you can break the pallet very quickly while cloaked. But even if you don't, you spend about 2 seconds, I believe it's 2 seconds or 1.5 seconds cloaking, during which you're moving at 115 speed, as opposed to 146, I think Old Windstorm Purple was, or 150 if you're current base Wraith. And you're moving that much for 1.5 seconds. So that is a pretty significant difference. And if you uncloak to literally 99%, it is virtually impossible for survivors to actually tell that you're faking it. Or at least tell in time, because... remember, she's injured, she wants to play this safe. So if he's close to uncloaking, she could start running this way and kind of call his bluff. But if she's wrong, then he has no downtime between fully uncloaking and being able to swing. So he would literally be like, clapped immediately. Sorry, that may have been a bit loud, I'm sorry. But yes. So that's another possible way to deal with pallet camping. There's also another pallet back there.
I swear. For
back
some
there,
reason, his lunges
which is a
always
bit nasty.
feel... And it's like, I feel like I was playing any
But don't worry,
other
the
killer,
map's
I would've been
killer-sided,
fine on that.
honest.
So he does have a play with your food stack, another play with your food stack coming in. So he is going to be Speed Demon, going to make
So
this
he's
incredibly
currently...
difficult.
This is a misplay that the
Try to go
commentators
for
actually called out, which I will
food
let them
stacks,
do.
play with your food. It doesn't look like it.
Oh,
no, he is
oh,
actually
he was.
going. He cloaked for it.
Yeah, he could have got the
hit,
grab
but
and
he
save
cloaked
too. Yeah, that was really
Yeah.
unfortunate because in this scenario, he's just going to lose the stack anyway. He actually loses out so much time for the cloak there because this hit will reduce the stacks to 2, and the grab would have kept the stacks at 2 anyway. So massive time lost there for Otzdarva, but is going to be a third hook coming through.
So, if you didn't hear that properly or you didn't understand what they were saying, basically what happened was...
I would have been fine on that.
If you go over here...
And gonna make it look like incredibly
So,
difficult. I'm
here.
curious if he's gonna try
He's
to
going
go
for play with your food stacks, but here's the thing. He's at 2, right? So, if he cloaks again and he's going for another cloak, he's going to get a third one, but he's still going to have to down her, which will require a swing. Sorry. Sorry, fuck, bless me. He's going to have to swing, and that'll just put him back down at 2. So right here, this is an unfortunate, like, reaction time. If he'd known there was a window here, I have confidence that he would have gone for the grab. But he was already cloaking, and didn't react fast enough to see, oh, she's in the vault animation. I should cancel my cloak. So if we go back a few frames, like, see, like, she may have been faking, she may have not been faking, but either way, he could have possibly, if he'd reacted fast enough, gotten the grab there. But instead he got a third play with the food token, and then he just had to waste that going around and grabbing her down there, or hitting her down there.
He cloaked for it.
Yeah, he could have got the grab and save too.
That title's kind of nasty, actually. What the fuck?
Really
There's 2 windows there.
In this scenario, he's just going to lose the stack anyway. He actually loses out so much time for the cloak there because this hit will reduce the stacks to 2, and the grab would have kept the stacks at 2 anyway.
That's
so
a slight misplay.
Time lost there.
Down with it, 21 minutes.
But is going to be a third hook coming through onto Yule. I think realistically, Otzdarva needs to just hook the survivors 7 times. That will... Oh, no, maybe a lot more than that. Maybe a little bit more.
Okay, this is probably going to be like an hour-long video.
You get 9 hooks if the survivors get a 4-man escape. And as soon as he starts killing survivors off, the amount of hooks required go down.
So he's pushing him off the generator there, and he does have the ruin active, which means
Thanks
that
for switching
generator
away
will be regressing.
So that's a good lunge. Something to keep in mind. With 125 Wraith, even if you don't have Swift Hunt, you'll notice here...
Down.
He starts uncloaking, first off, Ace had sprint burst, so he didn't uncloak, which is a good idea. You see, he starts uncloaking when his model is touching aces. When his hitbox is touching aces. There's no pallet here.
There, and he does...
If... That fucking switch is really annoying. If you do this and start uncloaking then, if you time your lunge correctly, you will literally always get the hit, unless there's like a crap ton of stuff in the way that you have to weave between. So, 125 Wraith, he would guarantee get this hit. Ace should have just kept running down that way, because you couldn't do that with 1 second Wraith.
It's already down 25%, then
this is another good thing. This is related to All-Seeing. So, Otz does this a lot, especially with perks like I'm All Ears on Peg, or on just stealth kills in general. If they don't know where exactly you are on the loop, and if you're cloaked they won't, then you can just sit there, watch them through the wall, and watch what they do. Ace, this is a very safe window, and Wraith struggles against windows. So this is a tile that he wants the Ace to not be at, because he can waste a lot of time here. Ace gets scared and fucks off. Vaults the window here.
Mind game him there. Obviously, all seen,
and he's able to catch up.
No, he is not.
Failed Firecracker.
This is actually a
nowhere to go. He dies.
Should get the down here.
That's really nice to see.
That's already full.
He goes to check this gen, which is...
And yeah, 4 hooks like you say. And the thing is, one thing I actually really like about this pick, now I think about it a little bit more, is the fact that Survivor teams in competitive play tend to stay injured all game. No way, they got the 33% chance.
That was an unlucky ruin cleanse.
The Hex Totem was ruined and they discovered it.
This is why I like Undying to protect totems instead of Haunted Ground, because it's less of a gamble. Less payoff, but less of a gamble, so it depends on how you want to play.
Injured. As much as possible, Hexy.
This is just funny.
And,
so at this point...
You don't want to stay injured versus
yeah,
this
okay.
killer.
So it worked here, but he should have been more left, because he knew there was a pallet there. If you scroll back to here, he sees this pallet here, He sees her here. She wouldn't be able to get up there to this window in time. So what he really wants to do is uncloak from here. He gets the hit anyway, but it's very dicey.
As much as possible, Hex.
So he actually moves along here, which I assume he was trying to stop her from getting to Shack, but she wouldn't have been able to make it to Shack anyway. So he just kind of slides along to here. It works out, but generally speaking, you want to keep track of which pallet is closest, or which window is closest, and body block that, because it gives you the best chance of catching them before they can get to anything that would cuck you from a hit.
Versus this killer.
He might know now. Yo, this guy is seeing me in weird ways. Yeah, and that's what I was kind of saying about the Wraith, right? Like, the killer struggles just from like a loop standpoint and so on and so forth, but with the insane mobility, with the wall hacks of All-Seeing Eye, and then just the spread pressure, and you notice they're not healing. You need to kind of heal versus this, but at the same...
So Hexy mentions you need to heal versus Wraith. Yes, this is exactly true, because of the same reason why Exposed is so good on Wraith. He gets first hits very easily, and if you're injured, then it's a down. Just no questions asked, unless you have Sprint Burst or Dead Hard. So yeah, heal versus Wraith.
It's like...
Which is actually, sorry, something to mention, which is why Sloppy is a very good perk on him. Why Nurses is a very good perk on him. Why Thanatophobia... Actually, Thanatophobia is less of a good perk on him, because it incentivizes them to heal, which is what you don't want them doing. But it can be nice if you combine it with something like Sloppy, or his green add-on Blind Warrior White, which applies Mangled and Hemorrhage, so Sloppy Butcher, if you hit someone with a surprise attack, which means you come out of cloak and hit them within a few seconds. The window for surprise attack is actually very lenient. You don't have to hit them with your uncloak lunge, you just have to hit them within a couple seconds of uncloaking. I believe it's like 5 seconds or so. Possibly even a bit later, I'm not sure. But given that with Wraith, you will be spending most of your time cloaked, and only really uncloaking to pick someone up or to hit someone, 99% of your hits will be surprise attacks. So it's basically like using an add-on slot to run Sloppy. So it depends on whether or not you have a perk slot free or you have an add-on slot free, but either way, Sloppy is good on Wraith.
If we're spending all this time healing, we're not doing generators. So where do you draw the
line? And also, yeah,
do
if they spend more time healing, they're not doing gens.
And not heal, or do you play the route of I might get caught off guard and then go down for this?
This is a bone clapper play right here. I'm not sure if you've ever heard someone mention an Iron Will play as Survivor, like ducking around walls and walking to lose the killer because they can't hear you because you're injured. Or they can't hear you because you have Iron Will. Bone Clapper makes your bell, like noise, omnidirectional. So when he's uncloaking here, she should know that he's right here, and she should be able to pinpoint that he's on the other side of this wall, based on his bell play. If you don't have line of sight on the Wraith, and the Wraith has Bone Clapper, even if he starts uncloaking, you have no possible idea where he is. He could literally be anywhere. This is compounded by the fact that Wraith now has 150% base speed, so he can duck around somewhere very, very fast, a lot faster than a lot of people would expect from a Wraith. And he can come from basically any direction that the Survivor might have to watch for. So he doesn't have Bone Clapper, so Jane should be able to tell that he's uncloaking around about, here-ish. But if you have Bone Clapper, then this is a play I encourage you to go for, if you're banking on the fact that they don't know where you are. But just a reminder, if you don't have Bone Clapper and you start uncloaking on the other side of a wall, they know you're there.
Route of, I might get caught off guard and then go down for this. So he's gonna...
So she actually dropped the pallet too early there, but it is what it is.
The wall hacks there, does swing it, swing and a miss though.
Yeah, swing and a miss, but it's not going to be enough to get Dom to safety. The Dead Hard weighted perfectly by Otzdarva, and that is going to be another hook point coming through. It's going to be the 6th point via hooks, and I think, like I said earlier, 9 is the number necessary. And a little bit of a nod, a teabag from the Meg, a nod from Otzdarva. These teams are...
Well, he does actually spot the totem. Does he destroy it, though? That's the real question.
No way.
Same thing here. That was a Bone Clapper play. She has Sprint Burst. He should cloak here.
It was a nice little play.
That's a good bell bait, though.
Otzdarva read it on the Meg here, and is going to be...
Well, actually, no. He made a good play and not cloaking there because he got the pallet out of the way. But he cloaks immediately again, which is
The more
good.
pallets he can destroy, the better he's off as far as like winning this. It does look like they're kind of realizing like.
So that's something I need to point out.
Jeremy is going to be able to suss her out.
Right here, you see he comes around here. The quickest way to the Meg was through that door. But as Wraith, as I said before, you shouldn't be afraid to take detours to check on things, because you can make up the lost distance very quickly while cloaked. Being able to multitask is a good part of playing Wraith, especially because that makes the best use out of his mobility. So he just goes over here, doesn't see anyone with all-seeing, and then
he's off as far as like
comes back to chase the Meg.
It does look like they're kind of realizing like, guys, we need to.
He's up here.
We're falling way too far behind. People on their death hook.
And also, that detour allowed him to come from here, which she probably wasn't expecting, because remember, she was running from here, coming in here. She was probably expecting him to be here. He came around from the side, which is made much better by the fact that he has Bone Clapper, but also that play kind of relies on all-seeing eye, or just knowing where they are in general. So yeah, Wraith mind games over walls and such like this, and line of sight blockers. Your ideal situation is knowing where they are and them not knowing where you are. So Bone Clapper and All-Seeing Eye is actually a very, very good combination for chase-oriented Wraiths. You can use Shadow Dance if you prefer like Brute Force, more M1 killer sort of things, but if you want to make fancy use out of ambushing them from like angles they don't expect, Bone Clapper, All-Seeing Eye. Very, very, very good combo. All-Seeing Blood, sorry.
And Dom gets a smack on Huzzah.
Oh, dude, I mean, we
comes up here.
had a massive meeting, Hexy, about head-ons, right?
So this is another good thing. He makes use of his lunge to avoid having to go through the ace and just comes around here.
And bring some of these lesser-picked killers into the roster, as Otzdarva will tunnel Dom out of... I think Dom does have Decisive Strike. Wraith is one of the bugged killers, 2-second stuns, so...
Okay, so he mentions a bugged stun from DS, which I assume was something that just happened back in mid-2020, which is like Decisive didn't stun certain killers for as long as it should have. So, yeah, I guess that's just that.
He's gonna immediately, yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, unfortunate. But like I was trying to say,
you know,
we
he got too close, he lunged through it.
Many of these lower tier killers to be picked, but this is why we allowed for some spicier add-ons on these killers, and Otzdarva is going to find his first kill of the game. That's going to, I think, probably at this stage be enough points to...
At this point, he's already lost. They're already on a different gen. Actually, no, sorry. There's only 3 gens left.
There's no way they can come back on that, because that's
for some reason I thought there was 1 gen left.
4 points for the Dom. You know, even if
he comes up here. This should not have worked. Remember what I said about Bone Clapper? Without it, this ace should be able to tell that he's literally under him. He may have thought he was coming up the stairs, but Wraith is tall enough to the point where that if he's uncloaking as he's coming up the stairs, you can see him. Granted, you don't really have anywhere to run, but at the same time, it shouldn't have worked. But it did. So he drops down and gets clapped. That works much better with Bone Clapper or Coxcombed. In fact, that wouldn't have worked with Coxcomb because he wouldn't have known that Wraith was uncloaking.
And as you can see with the insane mobility off of Wraith and the wall hacks on this smaller map.
So this is good. He's splitting pressure. He hits ace and then, like... This is... Okay, this is what people mean when they say hit and run Wraith. And I see a lot of Wraiths just get a hit and then they'll just fuck off to the other corner of the map. No idea where anyone is. They just like think, oh, I got a hit and run. I can't chase this guy because that's not what Wraith is built for. Wraith is not built for WM1, but he's not useless in a chase. You can absolutely commit to chases even if they have a couple pallets scattered around. The thing with Wraith is not that he's weak in a chase, is that he's strong in switching targets. But to switch targets, you need to know where your other target is. So, and this is a good example of it because he hits the ace and then leaves him alone to go and pressure this Meg off of a gen. If his Ruin was still up, this would be an even better play because Ruin would start dealing with this.
He's just able to get so much pressure.
This is an interesting uncloak. She doesn't really have anything here, but again, he probably should have tried to like at least make contact with her model first.
Other than the first aid kit,
just little things like that.
Spreading aggression.
He wastes a little bit of time there. I'm not sure what he's doing, but fair enough.
He faked out Flamingo on the gallows gen. He basically cloaked from uncloaked from underneath, and Flamingo launched himself into Otzdarva's hands.
Okay, this play is probably my favorite.
It's nuts, the amount of information he's got. Look at that. Oh, the uncloak. She's going to fall straight
he's
into
going to
him.
catch him right through.
Once again, this is making me think that Wraith's spell was bugged back then and it wasn't directional if you were, like, behind a wall. Because she should have heard that he was out on the balcony. And, like, bear in mind, this is a massive brain play. He cut around the entire building and banked on the fact that she was coming up here. So he predicted her movement perfectly, which is very good for Wraith. So this was a very good play. It shouldn't have worked because he didn't have Bone Clapper. But if you have Bone Clapper, absolutely go for this stuff. You come from an unexpected angle, and you clap them. Very nice.
Like,
and it makes sense. It makes so much sense because Huzza knows that that wall was still there. So there's no way that Otzdarva's on the other side of the wall. Surely his brain's not that big.
They have to know at this point. They have to know, like, hey, like, guys, he has all-seeing eye. Like, there's no way with how this match has been playing out, and like, they have to know that, right? Like, it's been pretty obvious. He's been catching them on multiple different corners.
So he's over there. He
does actually get the down on Flamingo.
Very, very close.
Yeah.
Actually, did he have adrenaline? Because that would have been quite funny.
Does actually get the down on.
No, he doesn't have adrenaline. That was unlucky. So if he even had one Swift on add-on, I think he would have been able to stop that. But it is what it is.
As well.
He slugs and goes back over here, but he doesn't
Going
cloak.
for the slug. He does have unbreakable though, so they do have the possibility.
He's only just now cloaking. He should have cloaked immediately.
Before they just can't win. It doesn't matter.
As I said, as Wraith, you want to, like, if you are not doing anything, like in literally the current second, then you should be cloaked. Pretty much always. Unless you recognize that they're at a tile you can't do anything about with your lunge or with body blocking, you should always be cloaked until you go for a lunge hit.
Or even if they get all three out, Shattered Dreams. Dreams today have been shattered.
And he just kind of leaves them alone. I'm not sure what he's doing here. Oh no, never mind. He was chasing someone. Oh, that's right. No, sorry. It was the life dance with me.
4K.
My bad.
Exactly. I mean, only 6 points.
So he comes from another angle and cuts her off.
That's not enough to contest the scoreline that Otzdarva has produced here on Killer and his team has produced on Survivor. Survivor, Huzza going down and no decisive strike in pocket, as we remember from the previous game. So that is going to be Huzza going on to their Death Hook. It is going to be a 2K coming through on to the
so that's a 2K.
Dawg Saloon, matching points as far as kills are concerned.
Based on the hook icons down here, I assumed the rules of the tournament was something like it counted hooks rather than kills. In which case, fair enough picking Wraith, even though Wraith is not the best, especially pre-buff. Wraith's power, because it's so hit and run, it facilitates you hooking someone, fucking off, finding someone else, hitting them, pinging between multiple people, and usually as Wraith, if you lose, it's literally just because you two hooked everyone. Or when you quote-unquote lose, if you count 4K as winning and 0K as losing, then that's why. So as a Wraith main, to avoid being tilted as playing Wraith, I recommend you kind of internalize your win condition as based on how many hooks you get, because that's what Wraith excels at. Or possibly your win condition is getting 4 stacks of barbecue. That's kind of what it is for me. Because Killer doesn't really have a defined win condition. So that's less to do with playing well and more just to do with avoiding being tilted and just having more fun as Wraith, because I absolutely encourage people to play Wraith. He's very fun.
Here, Hexy, but the hook states tell an entirely different story of domination from Otzdarva. 2 survivors, 3 hooked, 1 survivor on their death hook after being hooked twice, then Flamingo, only 1 hook state going his way. What an X.
Here are the perks if you're interested. Here are the items, the add-ons, such like that. You'll notice that even though he only got a 2K, he got a crap ton of points.
Surprise up Otzdarva's sleeve, a Wraith coming through.
Alright, and that'll be the analysis video. Drop a comment if you have any questions, if you want Wraith tip. I'm quite happy to go into kill your friends with someone one-on-one and just, you know, teach Wraith lunges, although be aware I am quite laggy, because I live probably on the other side of the world for you if you're anywhere near America. So, yeah, that'll be this Wraith video.